What you're hearing isn't just any Ferrari engine. It's the sound of a car so rare, so controversial, that Ferrari themselves have tried to erase it from their history books. Before we begin today's journey into automotive obscurity, take a moment to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Only 4% of viewers who watch these videos are subscribed, and you'll want to know when we uncover the next automotive treasure that time forgot. These aren't just cars. They're pieces of history that deserve to be remembered. In the world of ultra-rare Ferraris, everyone knows about the 250 GTO with its 36 examples, or the $1 million F40S. But there exists a Ferrari so rare, so significant, that seeing one in person is practically impossible. The story begins with Ferrari's most humiliating defeat. June 1966, Le Mans, France. Henry Ford II had fulfilled his promise to beat Enzo Ferrari after a failed attempt to buy his company. Ford GT40s finished first, second, and third. For Enzo Ferrari, this wasn't just a racing defeat, it was personal. The proud Italian had been publicly humiliated by an American manufacturer. Something had to be done. What happened next was unprecedented. Ferrari completely reorganized their racing department. Engineers worked around the clock. Test drivers pushed prototypes to their limits, all for one purpose: to create the ultimate weapon against Ford. The result was this: the 1967 Ferrari 330 P4. A car so beautiful that many consider it Ferrari's masterpiece. A car so advanced it represented a complete departure from Ferrari tradition. A car so rare that only 3 complete examples were ever built. Chassis 0856, 0858, Chassis 0860. Each with its own remarkable story. Each destined for a different fate. February 6, 1967, Daytona International Speedway. Ferrari's moment of redemption arrived when these 3 cars finished first, second, and third, a perfect mirror of Ford's victory at Le Mans. The infamous Ferrari Daytona was born. But after this brief moment in the spotlight, something strange happened. The cars began to disappear. Ferrari, instead of celebrating what many consider their most beautiful creation, seemed almost embarrassed by it. While researching this video, we uncovered something fascinating. Ferrari's own historical archives barely mention the P4. Their museum displays replicas, not originals. It's almost as if Ferrari wants you to forget these cars ever existed. Why would Ferrari hide their greatest achievement? What happened to the 3 original cars? And why are they worth more than almost any other vehicle on the planet? If you're fascinated by automotive mysteries like this one, this channel is dedicated to uncovering the world's rarest and most significant cars. Hit the like button right now if you want to see more content about vehicles that changed history but somehow got forgotten. Comment below with which of the 3 P4s you want to hear about first: the race winner, the Le Mans competitor, or the mysterious third car that vanished for decades. To truly understand the significance of the 330 P4, we need to examine it both as an engineering marvel and as a turning point in automotive design. But first, let's go back to the moment when Enzo Ferrari decided that revenge was more important than profit. The 330 P4 story begins with a rivalry, continues with triumph, and ends with one of the greatest mysteries in automotive collecting. Here's what really happened to the 3 rarest Ferraris ever built. The year was 1967. The Ford versus Ferrari battle had reached its peak, and in Maranello, Enzo Ferrari had just approved the most ambitious project in his company's history, one that would lead to the creation of just 3 examples of what many consider the most beautiful race car ever built. What made the 330 P4 special wasn't just its rarity. It was Ferrari's technological masterpiece, a complete reinvention of what a racing Ferrari could be. At the heart of each P4 was a 4-liter V12 engine, unlike anything Ferrari had built before. While previous Ferrari race cars used conventional carburetors, the P4 featured something revolutionary: Lucas mechanical fuel injection. This wasn't just a minor upgrade, it completely transformed the engine's character. The result was 450 horsepower at an incredible 8,000 RPM. Figures that seem modest today, but were extraordinary in 1967. But what made the P4 special wasn't just raw power, it was how that power was delivered. Unlike the peaky, difficult engines in earlier Ferraris, the P4's V12 produced smooth, linear power throughout the rev range. Even more impressive was the chassis. Ferrari abandoned their traditional tubular frame for a new semi-monocoque design using riveted aluminum panels. This made the P4 significantly lighter and more rigid than its predecessors, and crucially, more advanced than what Ford was using in the GT40. Then there's the body, widely considered among the most beautiful automotive designs ever created. Unlike many race cars that prioritized function over form, the P4's bodywork, designed by Carrozzeria Crepaldi, managed to be both aerodynamically efficient and stunningly beautiful. The differences between the P4 and its predecessor, the 330 P3, reveal Ferrari's obsession with beating Ford. The P4 sat 2 inches lower. Its cockpit was narrower. The windscreen was more steeply raked. Even the door design was changed to improve aerodynamics. No detail was too small in Ferrari's quest for revenge. But the P4's most significant innovation wasn't visible from the outside. Ferrari completely redesigned the transmission, moving from a traditional 5-speed to a new transaxle configuration that improved weight distribution. This gave the P4 handling characteristics that were decades ahead of its time. Drivers who experienced the P4 described it as telepathic, a car that seemed to anticipate the driver's intentions before they even turned the wheel. This wasn't just poetic exaggeration. The P4's near-perfect weight distribution and incredibly low center of gravity made it one of the most balanced race cars ever built. Each of the 3 P4s was built by hand by a small team of Ferrari's most skilled craftsmen. Construction took thousands of hours, with Enzo himself inspecting progress weekly. These weren't just race cars. They were the physical embodiment of Ferrari's determination to reclaim their honor. Their moment of glory came at the 1967 24 Hours of Daytona. In perfect formation, the 3 P4s crossed the finish line together. Chassis number 0856 in first, 0858 in second, and 0860 in third. Ferrari had achieved their perfect revenge against Ford, replicating the Americans' 1-2-3 finish at Le Mans the previous year. The victory stunned the racing world. Ferrari hadn't just won, they had dominated. The P4s ran virtually trouble-free for 24 hours, while Ford suffered mechanical failures. Enzo Ferrari called it the perfect race, the crowning achievement of his company's racing history. This is why Daytona became part of Ferrari mythology. The 365 GTB/4 road car would later be nicknamed the Daytona in commemoration of this victory, though Ferrari never officially used the name. It was their way of immortalizing what the P4 had accomplished. But racing technology evolves quickly. Just months after their triumph, new regulations made the P4s obsolete. Ferrari faced a decision: what to do with 3 of the most advanced race cars they had ever built, vehicles that had served their purpose but could no longer compete. This is where our story takes an unexpected turn, because what happened next to these 3 cars would become one of the greatest mysteries in automotive history. If you're enjoying this deep dive into forgotten automotive history, take a moment to hit the like button. It helps more people discover these automotive treasures and lets us know you want more content about ultra-rare Ferraris. Now, let's continue with the individual stories of each P4. So why isn't the 330 P4 celebrated like the 250 GTO or immortalized like the F40? Why did Ferrari seemingly allow their greatest racing achievement to fade from public consciousness? The answer reveals something fundamental about Ferrari as a company and Enzo Ferrari as a man. For all his passion for racing, Enzo was ultimately pragmatic. After the P4s had served their purpose, humiliating Ford at Daytona, they became obsolete as racing evolved. When rule changes for the 1968 season limited prototype engines to 3 liters, the 4-liter P4s were suddenly ineligible for the category they were designed to dominate. Rather than preserve them as monuments to victory, Ferrari did what they had always done: they moved forward. There was another factor at play. By the late 1960s, Ferrari's focus was shifting. Road car production was becoming increasingly important to the company's survival. The lessons learned from the P4 program weren't abandoned. They were transferred to Ferrari's growing road car business. Look closely at the 365 GTB/4 Daytona road car introduced in 1968, and you'll see subtle influences from the P4: the long, sloping nose, the setback cabin, the muscular rear haunches. While never officially called Daytona by Ferrari, the nickname stuck precisely because the car embodied the spirit of that famous victory. The P4's influence extended far beyond the 1960s. The 312 PB of the early 1970s carried its DNA. Even the iconic F40 of 1987 shows traces of the P4's low-slung profile and purposeful stance. Engineers who worked on the P4 program would influence Ferrari design for decades. Perhaps most significantly, the P4 changed Ferrari's approach to racing technology. The fuel injection system pioneered on the P4 would eventually become standard across Ferrari's range. The lessons in aerodynamics would inform every Ferrari race car that followed. But there's another more cynical theory about why Ferrari doesn't prominently feature the P4 in their heritage. With just 3 in existence, all in private hands, the company has no control over these cars. Unlike the F40 or F50, Ferrari cannot bring a company-owned P4 to events or feature one in their museum. Visit Ferrari's own museum in Maranello, and you'll find replicas of the P4, but never an original. The company celebrates the Daytona victory, but focuses more on cars they can actually display. It's a practical approach, but one that has contributed to the P4's relative obscurity. Today, seeing a real P4 requires extraordinary privilege. They appear only at the most exclusive events, often unannounced. Many Ferrari enthusiasts, even lifelong fans who have seen hundreds of rare models, have never witnessed a P4 in person. Those who have seen and heard a P4 in motion describe it as a transformative experience. The sound of that fuel-injected V12 approaching 8,000 RPM is unlike any other Ferrari. It represents the purest expression of what made Ferrari special during their golden age of racing. The story of the Ferrari 330 P4 isn't just about 3 incredible cars. It's about a moment in time when Ferrari was forced to innovate beyond their comfort zone, when national pride and personal vendetta drove the creation of what many consider the most beautiful race car ever built. These 3 machines remain the physical embodiment of Enzo Ferrari's determination, Italian artistry, and engineering brilliance combined in perfect harmony. They represent Ferrari at its most Ferrari, passionate, obsessive, and unwilling to accept defeat. So next time you hear about the greatest Ferraris ever made, remember the 3 cars that most people forget. The 330 P4, Ferrari's perfect moment, captured in aluminum and steel, powered by the most glorious engine ever to wear the prancing horse badge. If you've enjoyed uncovering this forgotten chapter of automotive history, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification bell so you'll know immediately when we release our next deep dive into the world's rarest and most significant cars. Let me know in the comments which other forgotten supercars you'd like us to investigate next. Is there another automotive treasure you believe deserves more recognition? A car that changed history, but somehow slipped from collective memory? This has been the true story of the Ferrari 330 P4. 3 cars that changed Ferrari forever, achieved the perfect revenge, and then nearly vanished from history. Sometimes, the greatest stories are the ones that are rarely told. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into automotive history, sharing this video helps us continue uncovering these forgotten treasures. Until next time, keep searching for the stories behind the machines that changed our world.